3 years ago, for some inexplicable reason, I decided to start uploading one Skyrim video a day until the release of The Elder Scrolls 6. First and foremost, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who watches the series, to those who leave likes and to those who leave comments. When I started this series 3 years ago, I had no idea how well it would be received. It's nice to know that my dumb little Elder Scrolls 6 waiting room series has regular viewers, all united in our suffering as we wait yet another year for some news about the next game. Like last year, there's a little game to be played going on in the background of this video. It takes the form of Guess the NPC, where you'll be given 5 clues that describe a character in Skyrim. The fewer clues you need to guess the NPC, the higher you score. 1 point if you need all 5 clues, 2 points if you get it in 4, 3 for 3, 4 points if you need 2 clues, and 5 points if you manage to get it on the first clue. There are 10 NPCs in total for a potential score of 50 points if you nail each one on the first clue. I've tried to include a range of difficulties and tried to make it so the first clue of each question uniquely identifies the NPC, even if these clues are quite hard. Also, unlike last year, the answers will be given 10 seconds after the last clue for each NPC is revealed, rather than all the answers being given at the end. Best of luck. The quiz starts now. Incidentally, I took last year's quiz while making this video. I didn't manage to answer questions 9, 17, 20, 38 or 45 correctly, so I only got 47 out of 52 of my own quiz. In my defense, the answers were on the tip of my tongue, but the answer being on the tip of your tongue is worth precisely 0 points. On to the main segment of the video. This anniversary video is going to be a little bit different than the previous two. This one is split into 2 parts, the first being a life update, the second being a series update. We'll get the life update out of the way first. As you might know from the thumbnail, I've had some pretty bad news in the past year. Last December, I went to hospital for a colonoscopy following some severe abdominal pain, and not long into the procedure, I was diagnosed with colorectal cancer. A couple of weeks later, after some MRI and CT scans, I was told not only did I have colorectal cancer, but it was in fact stage 4 cancer, and had already spread to my liver, and not just 1 or 2 tumours either. This is normally a damning diagnosis, and 90% of people who receive it will be dead 5 years later. My doctors, however, have been very positive about my outcomes thus far, and we are aiming for a cure via surgery. I don't want to go too into detail about everything that's gone on over the past year because this video would end up being several hours long. Suffice it to say that the people who popped in and left a comment saying something along the lines of "there's a chance you'll die before the next Elder Scrolls releases" are probably closer to being correct than they imagined. I'm fine with those jokes, by the way, they didn't know. Don't go witch hunting. In any case, this year I've had radiotherapy, 3 months of chemotherapy, 2 major liver operations, and as I'm writing this, I'm staring down the barrel of a 3rd and hopefully final operation on my bowel. Initially, I thought that the bowel surgery wasn't going to be as bad as the liver surgery. As it turns out, because of the state of my bowel and where the cancer is, there is an overwhelming chance that after this operation, I will have 2 stomas for the rest of my life. If you don't know what those are, consider yourself blessed. Basically, I won't ever have to go to the toilet again. I'll just have to empty the bags that hang off the side of my abdomen. Now that that gross image is out of the way, it's pretty fair to say that I've been extremely unlucky with this diagnosis. You don't really expect to be told that you have advanced cancer when you're in your late 20s. Having said that, the whole reason I've talked about this is to raise a bit of awareness about bowel cancer after everything I've been through. Bowel cancer is becoming increasingly common among young people, which speaks to changing lifestyle habits having an impact on this. I'm not a doctor, but I know that there are things that I do that impact my health. Likewise, there are things that you do that impact yours. Keep an eye on what you eat and how much you eat. Make sure you exercise every day, even if it's just a short walk. Pay attention to your body, and if you feel something is wrong, go to the doctors. I spent a lot of the last 10 years sitting in a computer chair, eating a diet so full of sugar and saturated fats it's a miracle I'm still person-shaped. The one thing I did do, however, is go to the doctor as soon as something was wrong, and it was already, at least to some extent, too late. I had no symptoms to warn me anything was wrong until suddenly I was having trouble with the toilet and suffering from intense abdominal pain. Colorectal cancer is known as a silent killer because its symptoms can be extremely subtle. Its main symptoms are changes to your toilet habits, including a change in firmness to your stools, and a change in how frequently you open your bowels. If you have abdominal pain or bloating, if you feel the need to go to the toilet even if you've just been, and, of course, blood in your stool. The only time I remember having that last symptom was just under 10 years ago, and it was diagnosed as hemorrhoids. Believe me, doctors have heard and seen it all before. Don't be embarrassed, just go. Better to be told it's just hemorrhoids than putting it off and it turning out to be cancer. The other thing is that, as a side effect of my treatment, I've started to develop a condition called peripheral neuropathy, which is a sort of pins and needles-y, nummy, painful at times sensation in my hands and feet. Currently I'm receiving treatment for it, and hopefully the damage can be reversed, but this can ultimately have an impact on my ability to use a computer. Hopefully this won't affect the series long term, but if it does, there'll be another update on it. That's the life update out of the way, onto the series update. Bearing in mind everything I've just talked about, I'm going to be drilling down and trying to finish this playthrough now before my next surgery. Bulk recording and stockpiling episodes has been something I've had to do a lot over this past year. I have just under 3 weeks to go until my next surgery at the time of writing and recording this, and currently have episodes prepared up until the 17th of November, so a few days after this video releases. As of then, Todd Howard the Orc, who has adventured tirelessly for the last 3 years, has just received Auriel's bow, and is about to have the final showdown with Lord Harkon. After that, and the rest of Dawnguard gets wrapped up, there are a few things left to do in the base game before we start the Dragonborn DLC. Luckily, the Dragonborn DLC is pretty big, so I'm sure I'll be able to get a decent amount of mileage out of it to cover my recovery period in hospital following my upcoming surgery. Once the Dragonborn DLC is done, however, I need to move on to doing something else for the series, because Todd Howard the Orc will have done pretty much everything there is to do in Skyrim, and I don't think it'd be fun watching him going around spamming the infinitely repeatable Radiant quests for another 4 or so years. I have an idea as to what I'm going to do. I did contemplate doing a hardcore legendary difficulty playthrough, wherein if I die I have to start again from the very beginning, but that has a slew of associated problems. First, it would affect my ability to edit. In short, the best way to do this sort of challenge playthrough would be to upload videos of uncut footage to prove I didn't die, and that footage would include lots of menuing, loading screens, and uneventful overworld wandering, which is something I learned early on should be cut because it doesn't make for the best viewing experience. The only way to make the series watchable at that point would be to play the game with live commentary, but that's not something I'm able to do for a number of reasons. The place where I live tends to get quite noisy at the best of times, and I'm also prone to being interrupted, which is already a problem I've had to deal with a couple of times so far, including the creation of this video. Plus, live commentary is hard work, both to actively keep it up while playing, and also in the editing process afterwards to make sure it doesn't sound too bad. When you're working on a series with daily uploads, the fewer overheads the better. Another problem is that if I were to die, Skyrim doesn't offer a New Game Plus system, so after the first couple of retries it could get really repetitive seeing the same thing over and over. Finally, playing on Legendary difficulty without dying is possible. I've done it myself a couple of times, but it ultimately relies on you completely bending your playstyle to exploit the simplicity of the difficulty change. If you want to beat Skyrim on Legendary difficulty without dying, play ultra conservatively, and work towards gaining access to Muffle, Invisibility, and Conjured Remora Lord, as well as a set of armour that significantly reduces the cost of illusion and conjuration spells. Then all you need to do is maintain your 2 elite bodyguards and your invisibility, and effectively nothing can kill you outside of your own stupidity. It wouldn't be interesting to watch. I also considered a number of potential modded playthroughs such as Legacy of the Dragonborn, but ultimately decided against it as 1. Mods, especially in combination with other mods, can lead to serious instability with a lack of accompanying documentation on how to fix any issues. And 2, major content mods and overhauls would, at least to me, sort of defeat the spirit of the series. The series is about Skyrim, not modded Skyrim. Where I might be willing to make the odd concession for small quality of life mods, huge mods that change what the game is and what you can do in it effectively transform the game into being something else. Therefore, modded playthroughs are off the table. I have, however, thought of a different challenge playthrough that would be a bit more interesting to watch, doesn't put as many restrictions on video editing, and is also something I've never done before. I'm not going to go into detail here so it can stay a surprise. Suffice it to say, I will probably end up retiring the current outro to replace it with something more appropriate to the new character. Another thing as well. Not only am I dying, but my PC is on its last legs too. I think, as a treat to myself after a year of hard times, I'm going to buy myself a new PC after this 3rd surgery. My current one was top of the range when I got it, but that was about 8 years ago, and it's starting to show its age a little. It's not a bad PC at all, but I'm getting lots of frame drops where it would otherwise be fine. You can even see some of these in the series, like 1.5 minutes into episode 1084. This is something I'm keen to avoid going forward, especially if I'm starting a new chapter of the series with a new character. So, to wrap up, after a pretty nasty year in my personal life, the first arc of the series is coming to an end after 3 years, and will be replaced with a new one. With any luck, by the time this next arc is finished, either Elder Scrolls 6 will be released, or we will at the very least have some more news about it, like a release date. In spite of my damning diagnosis, don't count on me going anywhere or stopping the series. It's called uploading 1 Skyrim video a day until Elder Scrolls 6. I haven't missed a day yet, and I don't intend to anytime soon. Thanks for watching.